Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You are listening to Whissel Weekends on AM 1170. The Answer. You can also tune in to us on FM 96.1 if you're in North County, or we go Facebook Live every Wednesday when we record the show. Just go to the Whissel Realty Group page and you can watch the show live as it happens. My name is Kyle Whissel with the Whissel Realty Group, joined as always by Mr. Jason Hall with Team Home Loans.
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I am good, man. I'm good. You've brought a very interesting special guest today, so I'm excited to get into this.
I do. I have such a special guest. We can't even really give out his full name. And
that's what makes it fun.
That's literally no joke. So we're just going to call him Geoff. Is it all right if I call you Geoff?
You can call me Geoff.
I think you just did. So
all right. I did.
A little late to turn back from that one.
All right. So Geoff's good to go. So Geoff's a litigation consultant. And so we kind of have a unique situation. You know, we're in real estate. I'm in mortgages. We happen to have also in studio with us James, who's with State Farm, who's an insurance agent for many years. And we all hear about fraud and what happens. This is the type of guy that actually goes and investigates the fraud. And so we just funded a loan for Geoff, and he literally just purchased a home here up in Escondido. So he got a brand new construction home, and it literally closed this week. And so we were talking, and I was like, wow, you have such an interesting background. I want to get you on the radio. He showed me a home that literally has not been lived in for like 30 or 40 years. Imagine like a ghost town looking home. And it appears to be in a very nice neighborhood that some banker, some borrower, and some appraiser did a multi-million-dollar loan on a property to literally fraud the bank. And, you know, he showed me a picture and it just blew me away. So, Geoff, was that a good, proper introduction? I mean, you're sitting back just listening. You know,
that's the nicest introduction anybody's given me in many years. I'm usually the last one they want to talk to, but thank you.
You're welcome, man. So, let me ask you. I know you've heard this all the time. You definitely have an accent, so that came from somewhere else other than San Diego, and I know that drives you crazy because they always ask you. We talked about that in my office, but what got you into this line of work?
I started in physical medicine and in the UK. And being poor wasn't really something that I strove to be. And unlike the American system when I started, we got paid like $6 an hour and had to treat 40, 50 patients a day. And as a sideline, a friend of mine had a solicitor's practice, or what you call an attorney's practice. And he wanted, I was a professional strongman. Whoops, sorry about that. I was a professional strongman. So he wanted somebody to go and serve process on debt work. And I started doing that. And I realized really quickly that the amount of money involved in the service of process versus sticking my head in graves or for 18 hours a day and being up to my eyeballs in muck was not exactly comparable. So I made a chunk of money. And then from that, it just, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And then I went to study at the bar, which is slightly different legal system to the US. In the US, you just have an attorney. In Great Britain, you have a two-tier system. So I became an officer at the court, and then I studied at the bar, and I studied as a barrister, and et cetera, and then I took it from there. And because of the regulations involved, I didn't want to do it. It was just too oppressive. And you were just pushing paper. And I enjoyed actually physically being out there and actually seeing the people and meeting the people and investigating the stuff. And then it just escalated, from that perspective to national clients, international clients.
And you literally have clients now all over the world.
I have clients every continent in the world.
And you're doing all kinds of different things. But one of the things we're talking about here on the radio, again, this is Whissel Weekends here on AM 1170, The Answer. And we're talking about an investigator on legal matters, right? Literally on things that really, like, a lot of the banks are clients of yours. They call you.
I do AML for a lot of banks. Right? I have ag banks in the Midwest that I go out and look at. I have clients who have money services businesses. I do an awful lot of mortgage fraud.
All right. Well, let's have some fun, though. Okay, because we're being really serious right now, Geoff, and you're a fun guy. And I want people to understand it's a crazy world. We kind of know it's a crazy world, But living through your eyes just the last 30 days and asking you kind of how you do your business and what goes on and what kind of cases you've seen really opened my eyes to how crazy the world really is. Like literally multi-million-dollar loans done on homes that have not been lived in 30, 40 years that people are completely trying to fraud a bank to get ahead.
Well, that's probably the low end of what I do in terms of mortgage
So what do you
fraud.
mean by that? What's that the low end?
So let me give everybody, all the listeners, like a local case. There was a very famous attorney here called Todd Macaluso. Todd Macaluso acted for Casey Anthony, and I don't know if you guys remember who Casey Anthony was. She murdered her daughter and was found not guilty on the charge of murder of a child.
Wow.
Do you remember this case?
I don't, not yet, but I know the other
Right.
guys here are shaking their head.
Right. Well, he was an attorney who set up various investment funds on cases and properties and bits and pieces for clients of mine. This made like international news, let alone national news. And he ended for trying to fly 1,500 kilos of cocaine into the US from Nicaragua. And I see you shaking your head on this, so you remember the file. But he embezzled $6.2 million from members of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow.
And he put those on mortgages, on properties, on assets that simply didn't exist. So when I said that homes that haven't been left in are like, they're kind of like the bottom end of the scale, because on
There's actually property. There's just, the home was, kind of empty at least in the case of the picture you showed me. But this guy's been putting loans on things that literally never existed.
Oh, absolutely. He embezzled tens of millions of dollars from various different people on cases that didn't exist, homes that didn't exist. He took money on the big wildfire cases, and he just took, when the insurance settled on those cases, he took all the money on those files.
Right.
He was convicted for having a prostitute on his books as a mortgage consultant. And she
Apparently that's going on with the president too or something. We're not certain on that, but I know Kyle's got some questions. I want to ask you about some of the realtors, because I know we've seen some realtors go down over the last 10 years after all the mortgage fraud and loan fraud that was done. And a lot of agents are like, well, I got to pay my mortgage payment, and you got to be careful. Don't do something that's illegal, right? And it's amazing what people are willing to do to make a buck. And I'm always shocked. I've had agents tell me, hey, will you do this? I'm like, no. They're like, why not? I said, because I want to keep my job. I've done this for 30 years. I want to do it another 30 years. And I don't want to be like Cohen in front of the Congress, testifying why I did this, this, and this,
There's an expression in what we do, needs must, right? So needs must means that a guy who needs to pay his mortgage is going to put people up who simply are not suited for a mortgage, who have no financial means and the ability to pay it. And all these guys are looking for a fee. So what these agents do is they find suitable candidates.
What we kind of refer in the business as straw buyers.
They're straw buyers,
Right.
So they get the straw buyers and they fabricate the documents. The problem with the mortgage industry is that it is so heavily reliant upon the paper pushers that there's no physical contact with anybody.
Right.
So the property I just showed you guys, and obviously your listeners can't see it, but the property I just showed you guys actually hadn't been lived in since 1978, right?
Which most of the guys in here had been born. It's just you and I are probably the only ones born prior to 1978, Geoff.
And that particular property got a $2 million loan on it. Now, I don't care what you say, and I don't care where you are. It looked like something out of the Addams Family. Guys, that will really give my age away, when we're talking about the Addams Family, right? But it looked like something out of the Addams Family. And we tried to walk through it. And it was rat infested, dilapidated. Nobody had obviously been there. You know what I mean? It literally was a scene from a movie where the last meal was still on the table.
So let me ask you, I think there must have been multiple people involved in that fraud. It just wasn't the borrower.
But it starts with a broker. It starts with the agent, not the broker. And what the agent does is he sets that up. Because if you can get past the appraiser, and the appraiser can say that this is a value of X, like we've recently done a case in Poughkeepsie where they took industrial land and they put a valuation on it of $750,000. The actual property itself was worth maybe $25,000, $30,000 because it was brownfield and it was unusable and it had toxic waste on it. but they still got an agent and a broker to work together so that they could.
Because there was that must need kind of thing, like you said.
Needs, must need, right?
Right.
So, and then the paper pushers take it from there, and then nobody actually says, well, wait a minute, can I go out and see this? You know, you're presenting me these pictures of this thing. You're like, this is the 21st century, guys. You know, we can like look at it on
You should be able
Google.
to Google map it. Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, we can look at this thing and we can actually see it. But people are really shocked and amazed that when we go out to do stuff, that we send them back the pictures. It's like, but that's not a picture we got on file. You know, that's not. Well, you kind of think you would want to look at, you know, what you're giving millions of dollars on.
Yeah, and that's the way the industry has gone. And Kyle, we've talked about this on the show, Kyle. So many people are going to like an online lender, and a lot of lenders have actually moved overseas. There's banks. Bank of America is no longer doing mortgage operations in America. They moved it to India over 10 years ago.
They did.
Right. And that's what's crazy. And so how's the buy in India ever going to verify that property? He's really trusting the people that you're talking about. So I know we're kind of wrapping up that segment. You got any questions, Kyle, for Geoff?
I just think it's interesting because it goes on so much. And I think it's true that when people need to do something, need to pay a bill or need to get something done, then they make a really stupid decision and do something that puts them in a bad position. And I think it's good that there's somebody like Geoff out there that's sniffing this stuff out and putting people behind bars or whatever ends up.
Well, he provides
happening
all
with
the
these
information
guys.
so they can put people
Yeah.
behind bars. They
That's
can
correct.
get
You're not
money
the
back.
actual person. You're just the one.
Well,
And-
I sometimes go and put the handcuffs on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's when they try and shoot me or, you know.
I bet that's happened. We could probably have the whole show just on things that have possibly happened to you in your career, starting way back when. So,
Well, not so way back when. In the last year, I've been blown up twice in Africa. I've been shot at once, and I had a guy turn up at the door with a meat cleaver.
all right. Well, here's what I'm going to end with. The most interesting
Hazard
guy.
pay.
Yeah, hazard pay, right, James? The most interesting guy I think we've ever had on Whissel Weekends. We've been doing this show nearly 5 years. It'll be 5 years on June that kind of have done this show. And I appreciate you coming in, kind of just sharing a little bit of what you do. I wish we had more time, but I wanted to get you in this segment. As you can see, we got a ton of people in here, a lot of people wanting to share some information, and Kyle's the man, and we're going to move on with the show. But again, you're listening to AM 1170, The Answer. This is Whissel Weekend. We'll be right back.